we doing here? It's a Tuesday. Mr. Irrelevant. I'm Alex Strouf with you from the Everlight Solar Studio. I guess when big things happen, they want me to work more. That's fine by me.
Not a bad thing.
No, I'm not complaining whatsoever. How you doing, everybody? Hope you're having a terrific Tuesday. The first ever Tuesday edition of Mr. Relevant. I'm Alex Strouf with you from the Everlight Solar Studio in downtown Madison, Wisconsin. As always, joined by the great producer Tiny Hands, who you just heard the voice of. Our buddy Hunter Vaughn with us per usual. We're going to do a Tuesday quickie because there's a ton to get into, right? I mean, since we went off the air 23 hours ago, Aaron Jones has cut and found a new destination in the NFL. Xavier McKinney is signed with the Packers, the former Giants safety. Josh Jacobs, the news broke while we were on the air yesterday. But I do want to dive a little bit more into that. And also I want to look ahead. What's next for the Packers, as it seems like their big swings, their big splashes are probably done with at this point, right? Like they might make some more moves. I'm not saying they're done. But I don't know that they're going to make any more huge moves like Josh Jacobs and Xavier McKinney are viewed as. So we'll talk about that as well today. No guest today. We're back with a guest tomorrow as we continue to dive into some of the Packers stuff as well as, obviously, this is like one of my favorite weeks of the year. I said that a million times off the air, both personally, professionally, sports-wise, right? Because you have I stayed up late, Hunter, and I know you'll appreciate this. I stayed up late last night to watch the Horizon League semifinal as UW Milwaukee punched their ticket to the Horizon League championship game tonight as a 6 seed. Bart Lundy leading the Panthers to the Horizon League championship game. That game didn't end until like midnight last night.
It's always wild because of how many games they have to get in a day. They're just like, okay, you're going to tip off at 9 o'clock.
But the thing that's weird about that is it's a semifinal, right? So there's only 2 games in Indianapolis, at least on the men's side. I think the women's are also in Indianapolis this year for the Horizon League. I might be wrong.
I have it on the TV. I'll take a look. I wasn't paying attention to where they were playing.
Fair enough. But UW Green Bay, their women's team playing for the Horizon League championship. So I love the conference tournament time. And then what we do here at ESPN Wisconsin, we cover the high school boys state championships, which are this weekend. And then obviously Selection Sunday is coming up on Sunday, on top of the obvious NFL free agency, which got underway officially tomorrow, but the legal tampering period opening yesterday. And that's really where all the exciting news pops up. So excited to dive into some of the stuff that's happened in the last 23 hours since we last spoke, which includes Aaron Jones, released by the Packers following the signing of Josh Jacobs to Green Bay. And now Aaron Jones signing a 1-year, $7 million deal with the Minnesota Vikings. Aaron Jones staying in the NFC North, goes to a team that plays the Packers twice a year and makes $7 million. Now, the pay cut the Packers had asked Aaron Jones to take before they pivoted their game plan this weekend, as more details have come out, was a little bit less than a $4 million base and $2 million worth of incentives, according to the Athletics' Matt Schneidman, who reported this just about 10 minutes ago. So the original deal was $11 million base. Their final offer was under $4 million. Aaron Jones obviously ultimately ends up in Minnesota with a $6 million base salary and $1 million in incentive, adding up to the number you see on the screen, a 1-year, $7 million deal with Minnesota for the new Vikings running back, Aaron Jones. This is a tale as old as time. I mean, really, it has been the last about 20 years, where Minnesota loves picking up veterans from Green Bay. It's just a thing they do. Right? I mean, the obvious ones are Ryan Longwell and Brett Favre and Greg Jennings and now Aaron Jones. But you forget about guys like Dayton Jones, who played in Minnesota for a year. Brandon Bostic went to Minnesota for a year. Chandon Sullivan, Dean Lowry were just there this past year. So this is, Zadarius Smith obviously was there, right? So this is nothing new for Minnesota, where they love to pick up guys that have traditionally shredded them. And that's fine. I'm not going to go after Aaron Jones for getting a deal, right? He is what we view as, right, like an independent contractor. Whoever the highest bidder is going to get his services. And unfortunately for us Packers fans, it was the Minnesota Vikings over the course of the last 24 hours. So I'm not going to go after Jones, right? I get it. It sucks. I'm sad about it. because he was one of those guys that I really felt like he would spend his entire career in Green Bay. He'd be drafted by the Packers. He'd retire a Packer. And two of those guys were cut yesterday, right? I mentioned Jones, but also Bakhtiari, who was with the team for 11 years, was cut yesterday and will not end his career in Green Bay. So it's sad to see, but it is what it is, right? The NFL is a business. And as Jason Wilde told us yesterday, Hunter, I think we have the clip from Jason Wilde yesterday. It's as simple as this when it comes to the Packers general manager, Brian Gutekunst.
One thing we know Goody is not, and that is sentimental.
And there is no sentiment here for Brian Gutekunst as he lets go of both David Bakhtiari and Aaron Jones, two of the guys that were on the team before Brian Gutekunst was the general manager. To be honest with you, I haven't gone back and looked, but I don't know that there's many people left. I think Elton Jenkins was around before Brian Gutekunst took over in 2018. The 2018 draft and season was Goody's first as the GM. Other than Elton, I don't know if I can name a whole lot more. Kenny Clark is one of them. Jair was his first draft pick. So there's just not a ton of guys left that are not Goody guys, which is fine. The Goody plan, as we talked about yesterday, has been working. Brian Gutekunst deserves our trust and our respect and, our blind faith. That's just the way it goes now. Brian Gutekunst has proven, at least this far, that he is a trustworthy general manager for the Green Bay Packers. So I'm happy about it, right? Like, I get it. It's a business. There is the sentimental ties that we as fans have to guys like Bakhtiari and Jones. But at the end of the day, Brian Gutekunst's job is to put together the roster that will win you a championship. And as I've said a few times now, and I will repeat the second, is without a doubt, undeniably, the Packers upgraded at running back yesterday. They did. Josh Jacobs is more durable. He's younger, and I think he's just capable of more as a true running back than Aaron Jones is at age 29, will be turning 30 late in the 2024 season. So, yeah, I'm sad. It sucks. But also, I can be happy with the fact that my favorite team upgraded at the running back position. Their offense became all of a sudden more potent than it already was. You saw a potent offense in the playoffs for the Green Bay Packers down the stretch against Dallas and against San Francisco. Jordan Love proved he's the guy. Do you want a top 5, top 4 running back in the league next to him, or a top 10 guy? You want the top 5 guy, the top 4 guy that Josh Jacobs is. So the Packers upgraded at running back yesterday. And that's something, as a Packers fan, I think all of us should be happy about. But, yeah, you can be sad that Aaron Jones goes to the Vikings. The issue I have, though, is with the Minnesota Vikings. This is not good for them. Aaron Jones is a fine addition, sure. But Minnesota is in like this battle with Justin Jefferson, who, by the way, is probably the best non-quarterback offensive player in the entire National Football League. Hasn't signed his extension yet. He needs to be in a winning scenario. And I imagine that the Vikings will draft a quarterback after Kirk Cousins leaves yesterday, signs with the Atlanta Falcons. But the headline in USA Today implies this: Vikings are signing Sam Darnold to replace Kirk Cousins, source says. So while I imagine the Vikings will draft a quarterback, that headline reads, Sam Darnold's your new quarterback in Minnesota. So you have the wonderful trio, I say with no sarcasm in my voice at all, of Sam Darnold, Aaron Jones, and Justin Jefferson. 2 of those players are pretty darn good. Sam Darnold ain't. And look, the good thing for Aaron Jones is he's never been overutilized as a Green Bay Packer. There's still tread left on those tires. So maybe he can be the workhorse that Alexander Mattison and Cam Akers weren't for the Vikings this year. But if Sam Darnold is their starting quarterback week 1, they're screwed. And Justin Jefferson will request a trade by mid-October. Because why the hell would you want to play in Minnesota? Kevin O'Connell's going to lose his job if Sam Darnold is your starting quarterback.
I think you're looking at this with green and gold colored glasses, Strouf.
Probably.
Because they still have Jordan Addison and TJ Hawkinson. This is going to be the most, if Sam Darnold ends up being their starter, I don't think he will be. This is going to be the most talented roster that Sam Darnold's going to play for one.
Well, minus the 49ers last year, but yeah.
But, like,
as a starter.
Yeah, where he's actually going to be working with those guys.
Well, that's
the
fair.
dude was working with the third team scout team offense at San Francisco.
Yeah, correct.
So I think that this is we're going to go and get Sam Darnold for them. They're going to draft a rookie quarterback. And if they need to, Sam Darnold's going to be a bridge to give this rookie that they take a year. And
so
I do think they're going to be a surprisingly good team because I think either Michael Penix or Bo Nix is going to be their starter this year, and I think they're going to actually surprise you. They're going to compete with Green Bay for second in the division.
Green Bay is going to be winning the division.
No, they're not beating Detroit.
Detroit's taking a backslide this year. Dan Campbell said that in his NFC Championship post-game press conference. Like, hey, I don't know, the next time we're going to be back here. Detroit's going to come back down to earth. Green Bay will continue to elevate, and Minnesota will be battling Chicago for last place, which could be 7 wins. I said it last week, Hunter, and I think we're in agreement on this. The NFC North could very well be the best division in the NFC next year. But I don't understand what Minnesota's doing. I don't know why you move on from Kirk Cousins. Now, I'm a Kirk Cousins guy. I always have been. I've always liked Kirk Cousins. I think Atlanta got a steal. I mean, not in terms of the dollar sign, but they got a steal there. You got a proven NFL starting quarterback in a good offense. I think they're comparable. I think the ceiling of Minnesota's offense is a little bit better, though, because you mentioned some of the key pieces, right? Obviously, Jefferson and now Jones, but you add Hawkinson and Addison, et cetera. Like, you have a pretty solid skill position offense for Minnesota, where Atlanta, like I said, it's comparable, probably not as accomplished, but you've got some really good pieces on that Atlanta offense with Bijan Robinson and Drake London and Kyle Pitts. I think Kirk Cousins is walking into a super great situation for himself. I don't know why Minnesota let him walk. I don't know why you move on from Kirk Cousins, go sign Sam Darnold, and then take the risk, which I think you and I are in agreement. They will likely take the risk on a rookie quarterback. Rookie quarterbacks traditionally don't work out in year one. C.J. Stroud is the exception, not the rule. Bryce Young is more the rule, right? And I hate to take him out because he got injured, but Anthony Richardson, right? He's the rule. It's hard for rookie quarterbacks to step into a situation day one and win, especially in a division you and I both think is going to be very tough in the NFC North. Detroit's clearly a good team. I'm not going to debate the semantics on whether they're the best team or the second best team in the division. They're a good playoff level team. Green Bay, we would agree, is a good playoff level team, unless they take a huge backslide and Jordan Love isn't as good as what we thought he was in the second half of the season. Chicago's on the rise, but again, same situation. It's hard for a rookie quarterback to step into a situation and be really good and elevate a team to a playoff level. I think Caleb Williams will be a good quarterback, but I don't think year one is going to be like an 11-win season for Caleb Williams, like it was for a guy like C.J. Stroud.
So you don't think Caleb Williams could do 2 games better than Justin Fields? Because weren't they like
they were 7 and
they were 7 and 9.
They were 7 and 10.
So
9 and 8 that would make them maybe. But again, I think their defense is good, and I think that will be what helps Chicago. And they're making more moves defensively. Offensively, though, I mean, they have good pieces, right? I mean, DJ Moore is an elite level wide receiver. Cole Kmet's a solid tight end. Who'd they just sign at running back? Who am I blanking on?
DeAndre Swift.
DeAndre Swift, thank you. He's back in the NFC North. So I think, maybe Chicago can be an 8-9 win team. I don't know if that's good enough for the playoffs in a tough NFC North. So Minnesota, to me, Hunter, is the team that might be the biggest question mark, and I don't mean that in a complimentary way. I mean that in that could be a 5-win team way, especially if it's a rookie quarterback or Sam Darnold under center for you, despite the fact you have a guy who's a really good running back in Aaron Jones with a lot of tread left on the tires. You have the best receiver in football. You have one of the best tight ends in football, and T.J. Hawkinson when he's healthy. I just don't have faith in Minnesota. I don't really have faith in Kevin O'Connell as the head coach. I think Minnesota's messing up big time by letting Kirk walk, and then they're picking up, and I hate to call Aaron Jones scraps because, like I keep saying, I think he still has a good amount of mileage left, probably a couple of good years. But the Packers upgraded. The Packers got the better running back, which, selfishly, is freaking awesome. I'm excited about that.
But I think Minnesota is trying to go the route of San Francisco, where let's pay everyone else except for the quarterback right now and see how much we can get around him to then win games. So, like, I don't expect whoever they have starting at quarterback to be the reason they win any of their games. But I don't think that whoever they have will be the reason they're losing games.
Okay.
They're just going to have to go out there and not mess it up. Like, that's literally just going to be their job, and that's a great spot to put a rookie in.
Hold on. You realize, come on, let's realize what you're saying here. It's a little bit harder than just not messing it up when you're an NFL quarterback.
No, but like, that's to sum up what San Francisco has been doing. That's literally what they've been asking of Brock Purdy.
Okay, I will listen to this case for a second, because let's compare San Francisco to Minnesota. Aaron Jones, Christian McCaffrey. McCaffrey's obviously the better back, but
yeah.
Aaron Jones is a top 7 back in the NFL? Top 8? Sure.
Yeah. And he does a lot of the same things coming out of the backfield.
Number, top 8?
Yeah.
Okay. He's good in the passing game. Aaron Jones is. I hate that he's a Viking, dude. Because, oh, man,
he's going to torch Green Bay.
We'll get back to what we're saying. But, yes, it's the revenge tour. He is one of my favorite Packers in recent memory. Like, why couldn't he go to somewhere different? Go be like a Brown or a Bengal or a Buck, right? Just go somewhere we don't have to see you twice a year. That sucks, because I want to root for him. I can't root for him as a Viking. Like, I wish him well. I wish him success. But I hope the Vikings win 4 games next year. So that sucks. So anyway, let's continue the comparison of San Francisco to Minnesota, because I think maybe what we're leaning into is they are building a crappy version of San Francisco.
Yeah, they're going to be San Francisco light.
But that hasn't worked for other teams. Many teams have tried. Only few have succeeded. I think Los Angeles, the Rams is a team, obviously, you can make a case where that has succeeded. They won a Super Bowl with that. But
the Ravens won a Super Bowl with that. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers went to a Super Bowl with Brad Johnson. The Raiders did it with Rich Gannon. Like,
just stack the offense. But all those teams you just made cases with had really good defenses.
Yeah,
I don't think
know.
you can make that case for Minnesota.
No, and I think they're trying to get there. And it's hard to get there if you're paying your quarterback $40 million. Now, granted, you're going to have to pay your wide receiver $30 million, but that's still less than 40. Like, I'm just saying that I don't think discounting Minnesota as being completely just, oh, okay, they're going to be terrible because of this. I don't think that's exactly being fair to their situation, and I think they're still going to be a competitive team, and I think they're going to give Green Bay a lot of headaches because of all of the weapons that they have.
Yeah.
As long as you don't have a quarterback that's trying to play hero ball and it's just like, okay, Jordan Addison is open. I don't care that I have Justin Jefferson one-on-one on Jair.
Yeah.
I need to take the open receiver to the other side.
Yeah, no, I think we've stumbled into an interesting conversation, because you're probably right. It's very volatile what the Vikings could be next year. I just don't have faith. You clearly do. You think they can be a good team. And we've stumbled into a decent conversation that a lot of people are chiming into on YouTube with, so I just want to read some of the comments. Mad City Brew says, Vike Queens will run Jones into the ground. Bill Phillips. Bill. So right now we have on roster at running back Josh Jacobs and Strouf's boy, Emmanuel Wilson. So what Bill is referring to there is during the playoff run for the Packers, we did, on ESPN Wisconsin, we did a watch-along during the 2 playoff games. Me, Gabe Neitzel, Josh DiMaggio, Ben Bruss, Brad Nortman, all involved with that. And every time Emmanuel Wilson touched the ball in the postseason, I freaked the hell out, man. Like, I was panicking when it came to Emmanuel Wilson. I believe Patrick Taylor also under contract. I could be wrong on that, but I think he's still technically under. He might be restricted. I think he's still with the Packers. But Bill, to that point, Jacobs and Emmanuel Wilson. I've been saying it all offseason long. Now, we just have to switch the main character, right? We knew A.J. Dillon would walk, and the Packers would let him move on, go find another team, which he still hasn't. We'll see what happens there. But Josh Jacobs, a more similar back to Dillon than he is Jones. So I imagine they wouldn't complement each other well. So Dillon won't be back. So I imagine the Packers' game plan at the running back position this offseason is Jacobs is your lead guy, and then you go attack the draft, day 2, day 3. Either draft 1 or 2 guys. I would love to see them pull a move like they did in 2017 when they drafted Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams, right? It's a pick on day 2. It's a pick on day 3. And with 11 picks in this draft, you could bring in a really fun running back room to camp, right? Jacobs, 2 rookies, and Emmanuel Wilson. My boy, Bill. I think that could be a really fun room. So I'm intrigued to see what happens come draft time. SDN 40 says that the Vikings won't be in the lead enough to use Jones. So SDN seems to be on my page, right? Like the Vikings, I don't know. That offense could have games where they score 35 points. I just think they might also have games where they score 6 points, like they did against the Packers on New Year's Eve this year, depending on who's playing the quarterback position and depending on how much they can maximize their ability. If it's a rookie, I don't trust it. If it's Sam Darnold, I don't trust it. I don't think they're going to go out and get Geno Smith or Justin Fields at this point, or Jimmy G. I know his name was floated, but then they signed Darnold. So that's something I'm intrigued by as we see this continue to go on. I don't know how to say this name. I'm going to try. Aquino Rallis, I think. The more I try to justify the Jones move to myself, the more upset I get about it. And I assume what you mean by that is the fact the Packers moved on from him. The fact of the matter is, unfortunately, it is a business, right? There's no sentimental ties to this. The Packers lowballed him. That's the matter of the fact. But also, the Packers upgraded by paying a dude what he's worth. And the running back position has been so unique over the course of the last calendar year. Last offseason, nobody could get paid at the running back position. This offseason, everybody's getting paid. Saquon Barkley, DeAndre Swift, Josh Jacobs, Aaron Jones, kind of. We just saw Derrick Henry go to the Ravens earlier today, right? So a ton of backs. I'm not even naming everybody that's signed a deal in the last 24-plus hours. So the running back position's unique, but I get this move because I think you need your lead back, your true lead back, and that's Josh Jacobs. It could have been Aaron Jones, and I think what this person is making the case of is maybe it should have been Aaron Jones in their opinion. But I think you look at what Josh Jacobs has the ability to do. He's a true workhorse. Matt LaFleur's offense has never truly used a guy as a true workhorse, right? So maybe they go get a rookie. Maybe my boy, Emmanuel Wilson, takes a big jump forward in 2024, and he's the number 2 back. He's a little bit more Aaron Jones than he is A.J. Dillon, but I just don't know how high his ceiling is. But he can be an electric dude. I don't know if he's like a true number 2 back in the NFL yet. I don't have a lot of faith in him, but hopefully he proves me wrong. He's a Packer. I'm cheering for him. A couple other comments on YouTube. Thanks for chiming in. Keep those coming as we continue the conversation. We'll get into some of the other moves the Packers have made in the last 24 hours and maybe will make here over the course of the rest of the week. Coming up in just a second, but appreciate you watching along with us on the ESPN Madison YouTube, Facebook, Twitter pages. Chad Case says Jones will last 5 or 6 games before nagging injuries, especially on their turf field. It's hard to project and predict injuries. I hope he's healthy. You never root for anybody to get injured, but it's a guy that has dealt with injuries. Aaron Jones missed 6 games last year. Josh Jacobs has missed 4 in his 5-year career. Durability, right? I mean, it's just that's why I view it as such an upgrade. And, I think the ceiling is higher for Jacobs. He had a 2,000-yard season 2 years ago. He's a first-team All-Pro running back 2 years ago. He was getting votes for Offensive Player of the Year 2 years ago. It's a guy you want on your squad, and I think he elevates you. And I think him and Love. It's going to be really, really fun to watch. Going back to when you said Aaron Jones is going to run all over the Vikings, Hunter. You can't stop what's coming. Ironic username. Chimes in 33, not smashing anything. He's going to get smashed twice a year. It's a Packers fan right there. That's my guy or girl. I guess I don't know, but you can't stop what's coming. And it ain't Aaron Jones, according to you know what's coming.
I just feel like there's always those former Packers. They have one game against the Packers then where they just kind of go off. Zadarius Smith had a game where he played really well. I remember Darren Sharper, I'm pretty sure, had an interception on Aaron Rodgers, or it would have been the Favre kind of transition years there. Like, it just happens. Like, you're just going to have that one game. I mean, I talk about it all the time. I'm a Cowboys fan. Cowboys players leave. Tyler Biotish is going to play like an all-pro for Washington next year.
I saw that.
And like not give up any sacks next year to the Cowboys. But then after that, everything will be fine and it just will even itself out. But it's what happens because it's just the way that like the sports gods work for everyone as a fan. So it just happens.
I love you, dude. You're so funny. When it comes to your Cowboys, like I've referred to you in the past as a doomsday fan. That sometimes that's a little much. I think today it's a little much, but you're probably right is the thing, right? Like
it just does. Like
Yeah.
I can
Yeah,
never
I get
explain it. No one can ever explain it. So you just kind of know, like, okay, this is probably going to happen at some point, and you just move on and you deal with it.
Yeah.
And that's what I do.
You're right. I did see this comment, and just because of the Wisconsin ties, I'll bring it up from Joseph. And by the way, thank you for the correction. The Packers also drafted a third running back in 2017, Devontae Mays, and I think he was a practice squad guy. He didn't make the active roster like Jones and Williams did. That's why I just alluded to those two. But shoot, 3 running backs this year, I wouldn't be mad about it. I mean, obviously we need the Packers to fill safety a little bit more, but I don't know that will all be done through the draft. We'll talk about that in a minute. But he brings up the name Isaac Guerendo. Louisville tested out of the water, man. He tested he blew the roof off Lucas Oil Stadium. 9.99 relative athletic score for Isaac Guerendo, which is that graphic that makes the rounds draft time. That ranks all time since RAS has been measured, I believe since 1984. Number 2 all time for running backs in an RAS score for Isaac Guerendo out of Louisville, formerly of Wisconsin here in Madison. The only running back that's ever beat Isaac Guerendo in terms of RAS. I'm gonna let you take a guess. Do you know the answer, Hunter? The best RAS score by a running back ever?
For some reason, I want to say it's somebody like Adrian Peterson, but I'm probably way off.
It's not AP. You're not way off, though. I mean,
Okay.
you're a little bit early in terms of when they played. This person is still in the league. Just signed a juicy new contract yesterday.
Oh, yesterday they signed? So Saquon?
That's correct.
Okay.
Saquon Barkley was a perfect 10 on the RAS score.
Not surprising.
No, not at all. He was a genetic freak. So I'm excited. I am really excited about where the Packers are at. Like, this Josh Jacobs move is awesome. We talked about it a little bit yesterday with Jason Wilde, but we do have the details of the contract, and just I've said it already in the last 25 minutes we've been chatting, that I just think this is an undeniable upgrade for the Packers. Now, it's expensive. This is the same deal the Packers gave Aaron Jones, I think, 3 offseasons ago. 4-year, $48 million. But they do have the flexibility to make it a 2-year deal. And I think they could actually make it a 1-year deal. Like, they front-loaded. They're paying him $14 million this year. So there is some flexibility here from the Packers' standpoint, which is great, right? Like, I'm happy about Russ Ball and Brian Gutekunst, the way they cook, man. And let me just say this. When it comes to yesterday, and when it comes to the way the Packers are viewing the upcoming season, Brian Gutekunst is not leaving anything on the table, right? He's pushing all the chips. Well, I guess this would be a bad analogy to use after I say he's leaving nothing on the table, but he's pushing all the chips into the center of the table. He views the championship window open. Josh Jacobs is a good swing. It's probably not like a grand slam if we're going to use the Badger or the baseball analogy, but it's probably like a good triple. Josh Jacobs upgrading from Aaron Jones, maybe a double.
I was going to say, I think right now it's a hard hit to the gap for a double, but you're kind of rounding second, like taking a look at what your third base coach is saying.
Yeah.
Like, you're just like, maybe I can go to third, but we're waiting to see yet. We'll know by like week 6 if you're going to third for a triple or it's, maybe a little league home run, to keep the analogy consistent with the play.
Little league home run. Yeah, no, Josh Jacobs is a good swing. The home run swing, though, is definitely Xavier McKinney, the safety from New York. He was an early second-round pick back in 2020, only 24 years old, which is terrific. He was one of the best-ranked safeties by PFF last year. This is a huge swing by Goody. I mean, it's a big deal, too, right? It's one of the biggest safety deals. It's probably the biggest safety deal you'll see this offseason, but one of the biggest safety deals in all of the NFL, period. 4 years, $68 million for Xavier McKinney, who comes to Green Bay now. And this is what you wanted to see. When you look at the Green Bay Packers right now and you say, yes, there's a hole there, there's no bigger glaring hole than the safety position that we've spent so much time on discussing both last season and even into this offseason, as only Anthony Johnson Jr. and Benny Sapp III are under contract for the Packers at the safety position. Now, I love this, right? This is a day one starter. This is a guy that elevates your defensive backs. I mean, everything about the Xavier McKinney move is great. But how do you add on to it? Is it through the draft? Are you taking a couple swings on safeties? And I hate this about draft time. I just need to get this off my chest quickly because I keep hearing people say this, and I just hate it. And that is, oh, this is a bad safety draft. Oh, this is a bad insert position draft. Oh, this is a great wide receiver draft. Like, on paper, sure. I'm fine with that. But the NFL is very hard to make it in. The NFL is very hard to be good at. And the NFL, by the way, impossible to predict. Think about the NFL draft for a moment. Like, let's just do this exercise before we talk about this being a bad safety draft and how the Packers continue to backfill that position. Think about number 1 overall picks. Sometimes you think it's an easy home run, and sometimes it is. Right? Peyton Manning, Joe Burrow. Right? There's names that pop up that you draft number 1 overall, and you're like, yep, surefire, they're going to be great. And they are. But Bryce Young last year was the number 1 overall pick. How'd that work out in year 1? Not good. Jamarcus Russell was a number 1 overall pick. How did that work out? Not very good at all. There are plenty of examples when you have a guy you view as a generational prospect or a surefire day 1 starter that's going to make a great impact. Is everything okay? Did I miss something? You just had a very big reaction in the middle of my rant, and I don't think it's related to my rant.
No, it's not. We can go to it after if you want to try and go back. I'm just...
Oh, Patrick Queen to the Steelers? Is that it? Oh, wow.
I was really hoping he was going to be in Dallas, if you couldn't tell.
Yeah, definitely. It's a guy I was hoping for in Green Bay, but I knew it wasn't realistic. But that's a huge signing. I mean, that's one of the biggest names that were still out there today. So Patrick Queen to the Steelers, going to have to take down Derrick Henry and the Ravens. Wow, the NFL's going to look so weird next year. Lot of big changes this week.
Because I distracted things and to try and get this back on track a little bit, I think what you're missing with the bad safety draft talk and like the bad position group or really good position group, like this year they talk about it's a really good receiver group.
Yeah.
It's because from what they see, what the Mel Kipers see out of these guys in college, they then compare it to past drafts and say, okay, if Marvin Harrison Jr. and Rome Odunze were in another draft, where would they go? How does this entire group compare to past drafts? And this year, typically there would be a safety or two that, given all of the other position groups, would be a top half of the first round group.
Yeah.
And they don't look like that same sort of player.
And
that's all they're saying.
And I get that. But let's flash back a little bit then. The last time the Packers selected a safety high in the draft was in the first round. I don't know the year off the top of my head. Maybe 14. You'll know probably when I say the name. It was a safety out of Alabama by the name of Clinton Dix.
Yep.
He was viewed as one of the best safety prospects in a long time when he came out of Alabama. How'd that work out? Not very well. It's a crapshoot. It's so hard to predict. And I understand that is the method, and I trust Mel Kiper and Matt Miller, guys that do this full time for ESPN. They know what the hell they're talking about and how to evaluate talent. I get that. But Brock Purdy was the last pick in the NFL draft. Jordan Love was viewed as the 5th best quarterback in his class. Like, it's just hard to predict. Alex Smith was taken first overall in the same draft Aaron Rodgers was taken. And Alex Smith by no means was any slouch. He was a good quarterback before the injuries. But it's just very, very hard before anything happens and before they ever lay their cleat on an NFL field to say, oh, these guys stink. It's a bad class. Nobody's going to hit.
See, but I think so much of that is also what is the coaching and front office situation that those guys are going into that isn't necessarily the draft's fault or that class's fault. Like, I think if Alex Smith and Aaron Rodgers swap places, the talent that Alex Smith had coming out of college, I think he's a much better NFL player.
I like that we're revisiting this 20 years later. Yeah,
but like it's because of the situation he walked into,
of course,
and he was asked to play in that didn't necessarily fit. I think Jamarcus Russell, if he goes in the 3rd round, he's not out of the league as soon as he is.
That's fair.
Like
expectations, money,
like
of course.
I think there's so much else that goes into it that then we talk about like, oh, what is it, the 2021 quarterback class? Like Trevor Lawrence is looking like the best one, and he's maybe an average quarterback in the NFL.
I don't know how that's going to turn out, but he was viewed as a generational talent.
Yeah, but I think Mac Jones goes somewhere else and doesn't have to do what he did.
Mac Jones stinks.
Okay, whatever. I know I picked the worst probably quarterback out of that because you just hate that man.
I do.
But like my point is again that if these guys are in different situations, their careers don't look at all the same.
Okay, I'm done derailing. Good point. By the way, big omission by me. I said the last time the Packers drafted a safety early was Clinton Dix. Obviously, they drafted Darnell Savage. Was it 12th overall? Or no, Rashawn was 12th overall. I think he was in the mid-20s. But Darnell Savage was a first-round safety as well. How did that work out? I mean, he just got paid. Yesterday, going to Jacksonville. Speaking of Trevor Lawrence, Darnell Savage's new teammate, a couple years back. So thank you to SDN40 for correcting me on that. My bad. Totally blanked on that. But again, I mean, it's the same argument. It's the same argument, right? Like, it's a first-round safety. It's a guy that you think is going to be a generational, maybe not generational, but a very good talent who's very athletic. And Darnell is very athletic. I think a trade or a change of scenery for Darnell will be good for him as he heads to Jacksonville. But Xavier McKinney, the newest safety and the newest addition to the Packers defense with the new defensive coordinator, Jeff Hafley. I love it. I think this is a great move. But now how do you fill that group up a little bit? I think it's going to be a combination of low-risk free agent signings. Let's remember last year the Packers signed Jonathan Owens, who ended up being a starter for them. And he wasn't great. Like, he wasn't game-changing for them in the defensive backfield. But he was good. And, you know, I think you can upgrade from that, obviously. I mean, good might even be a stretch, but he was solid. And you're going to go out and you sign a guy like McKinney. Hopefully you can make a couple of low-risk Owens-type signings, guys that can be depth pieces. And maybe you draft a guy in the second round that pops off in camp. And it's like, whoa, he's athletically, he's there. He's not missing tackles like a former first-round draft pick Darnell Savage did all the time. And he can be your second starter. I feel good, though, about the Packers' defense overall. You just got to backfill inside linebacker and safety, and maybe draft a corner. I feel good about their line. I feel good about where they're at edge. I like Isaiah McDuffie more than most people, and it looks as of today he'll be a starter with Quay Walker on the inside at linebacker. I like Carrington Valentine. Good rookie year as a seventh-round draft pick. And that goes back to my point on the draft. You just never know, man. And Carrington Valentine's going to be a starting corner for the Packers next year, likely, depending on what happens with him.
Glad he got a great situation and a good coaching staff.
Nicely done. That was good. That was a good chime in there. All right, so that's where the Packers are at as it stands now. Aaron Jones is a Viking. He is out of Green Bay. Josh Jacobs is in at running back. Xavier McKinney, the newest safety. Some of the other moves we haven't touched on. John Runyon is a Giant. Darnell Savage to the Jags, and I think that's it. One guy still out there that I think the Packers will go get, though, is Keisean Nixon, the cornerback and obviously two-time All-Pro kick returner for the Packers. He's a good special teams ad, obviously. Two-time All-Pro back-to-back years, as I just mentioned. He's a good depth piece. I don't know that I love him in the slot. I don't know that I love him on defense, but as a depth piece, you can certainly do worse, and he provides a huge spark for you on special teams, which traditionally the last 5-10 years for the Green Bay Packers has been a struggle. Special teams has been. It's been upgraded by the hiring of Rich Bisaccia. But this is a guy you want on your roster. So I'm curious to see when that move comes through. I would guess he's back, despite the vague tweets we've seen from Keisean Nixon over the course of the last couple days. 23 hours ago at 1:39 p.m., he just tweeted the eyes emoji. That was about the time the Xavier McKinney news came in. So it seems to me like he's still in on Green Bay, but that was the eyes emoji at 1:39 p.m. yesterday. And no move announced in regards to Keisean Nixon yet. I read some of the vague tweets yesterday from Keisean. I'll do that again today. On March 8th, he tweeted, I believe that was Friday or Thursday, "Why me? ... Same day. I worked for it. ... The same day. I visioned this. ... See, they're just vague, right? It could be as simple as song lyrics he enjoys with some weird dots at the end. That's my guess. I imagine it doesn't actually mean anything in regards to his NFL contractual situation, but you never know.
After our dinner for two conversation yesterday, I'm no longer reading into any tweets, so I will abstain from this conversation.
Shot at the number 69, David Bakhtiari, for the dinner for two thing. SDN, who's been chiming in all day, appreciate you watching along with us, buddy. He says, I struggle with the value of Nixon. That's something I struggle with, too. I have no idea what he's worth. But I imagine, and you and I by no means, unless you are, and I don't know this about you, you and I are by no means Russ Ball of the world, right? Like, we're not NFL financial guys. We're not general managers.
No, I actively avoid understanding that because numbers make my brain hurt.
Yeah,
so.
I did not get an accounting degree in college for a reason. I got a media studies degree so I could do this, so I could talk about stuff I like and stuff I enjoy, like the Green Bay Packers. And, I mean, it's awesome. We've got a bunch of you watching along with us across our platforms and obviously listening. On the audio side, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, if you've missed any of the show, you can get the show free on all those platforms 3 times a week. It's a special Tuesday edition. I said this is going to be a quickie. We're already at 40 minutes, so not very quick, but that's fine. Lots to talk about. I struggle with the value of Nixon, too. I would imagine a 1 year, $4 million, that might be high. $4 million, $3 million, that might be high. I don't know. I would imagine it's not very expensive to get Keisean Nixon on a 1 year deal.
No, and I wouldn't even be surprised if it's like a 2-year deal.
Yeah.
Because he feels like one of those guys where when you have to put him out on the field on defense, he's not like, he isn't giving up big touchdowns. And then you're getting the extra field position from when he brings on special teams. So I think he would be worth having around for a couple of years and give him that just kind of peace of mind of being like, okay, I'm at least in this spot for more than just a season. And hey, if he really all of a sudden picks stuff up and is great, then awesome. If not, you didn't really pay a whole lot for depth and an extra 15 to 20 yards of field position a game.
So the thing with that is, if you're Keisean Nixon, you're an unrestricted free agent. You're back-to-back All-Pro. I mean, that has to give you some negotiating juice at the table, right? Like, hey,
that's why I think maybe it's a multi-year, but still
but
short
how much?
term.
Right, like 2 year. Is it 10 mil? Is it 8 mil? Is it more than? Like
I think it's the 8 mil window ish.
Okay. Yeah, I have no idea. I really don't. I this is not my expertise by any means because, as you just said, numbers hurt my head. But it's something I'd like to keep an eye on. So that's our Packers talk for today. A couple of cleanup on some NFL news that's come across since we've been live. If you've been with us for the last 40-plus minutes. Drew Lock, the former first-round pick out of Missouri. He was a first-round pick, right? I think he was a first-round pick to Denver.
Yep.
Was in Seattle the last couple of years. He's headed to New York. He's a Giant, which is very interesting to me. I'm a Drew Lock guy. I know Goody was a Drew Lock guy. Brian Gutekunst, he liked Drew Lock. He's going to back up Daniel Jones. He's going to compete with Daniel Jones. 1 year, $5 million. Interesting move. We'll keep an eye on that. Patrick Queen, as I mentioned earlier, goes to Pittsburgh. The numbers are in. 3 year, $41 million. I feel like that's not that much for Patrick Queen.
No, and that's why I'm so annoyed by the fact that Jerry Jones can't open up his pocketbook and finally pay somebody that could help you in a position that you clearly got gashed in a playoff game.
It's less than $14 million a year for Patrick Queen, who heads to Pittsburgh. What else do we have come across today? Not a ton today. It's been a little bit less active than yesterday. We mentioned, obviously, the Aaron Jones news earlier. Oh, Joe Mixon, by the way, traded to the Houston Texans earlier today. I love that fit, man. I like Joe Mixon a lot. And one thing Houston significantly lacked last year was a good running game. I think Joe Mixon can still give you that. So C.J. Stroud, Joe Mixon, Tank Dell, that's a fun little offense they got cooking down in Houston. Nico Collins, obviously, as well. Houston's a fun team. I think I'm a Texans fan. Like, if I'm going to hitch my what would I call that? Hitch my trailer, hitch my bandwagon to a team.
Wagon.
Hitch my wagon. Is that the phrase I'm looking for?
Yeah.
To an AFC team that I would cheer for, like secondly to the Packers. I think Houston might be that team these days. I really like C.J. Stroud despite his Ohio State ties. I really like that offense. I like DeMeco Ryans, their head coach. And I like Joe Mixon, and I like that fit in Houston for him. Derrick Henry is a Baltimore Raven. That's a fun little deal. Lamar and Derrick Henry, each the leading rushers since 2018 at their respective positions, now teaming up in Baltimore, a team looking to add on to a really successful season they had this year. The 1 seed in the AFC, they just fall short in the AFC Championship game to Kansas City. They add a guy like Derrick Henry. Triple option offense.
I mean, yeah, it's great if they remember what got them to the 1 seed in the AFC and don't completely freak out because they have Patrick Mahomes on the other sideline. Then they'll be fine.
Calvin Ridley's a free agent. It was reported about an hour ago by Adam Schefter. The Patriots are pushing to sign him, but nothing has come across there officially. Shaq Barrett, the free agent linebacker, is signed with the Dolphins on a 1 year deal. So just Darnell Mooney, by the way, the former Bears wide receiver, headed to Atlanta, teaming up with Kirk Cousins. So he adds to that offense, does Darnell Mooney. They overpaid for him, but he's a good third option in terms of receiving, fourth option maybe even. Nyheim Hines, formerly of the Colts and the Bills, headed to the Browns as a running back, one-year deal for $3.5 million. And that's about your cleanup for today. Mike Gesicki, by the way, the former Patriots and Dolphins tight end, is headed to Cincinnati as well. So there you go. Those are your big moves as of today in free agency. The whirlwind continues in the NFL. I'm going to completely pivot now as we wrap up a Tuesday edition of the show with something I wanted to talk about yesterday. You learn something new every day. I learned something new on Saturday. Out of character for me, too, and I'm excited to hear Hunter's reaction on this. So Saturday I was at the Sylvie, which is downtown Madison, a great concert venue. Very intimate concert venue. I love it there, man. I go to shows there all the time. Saturday was Beartooth, which is a metal band. Second time I've seen them. First time I've seen them at the Sylvie. They put on a hell of a show. All the openers for them were great as well. I went with 3 people, Hunter. I lost all 3 of them multiple different times because there's mosh pits and there's a lot of movement.
Yeah, that can happen.
Falling over, right? So at some point in the night, as I'm several Badger clubs in, we pre-gamed it pretty good. And I was like, you know what? I have a way I'm going to find them. I'm just going to crowd surf. I'm going to have people put me on top of them and push me to the front, and I'm going to find the people I'm with. So I crowd surfed for the first time. It's very difficult. Like, I'm not a coordinated dude, and you lay on your back. You got to kind of lean your head forward so you don't get dropped on your neck. And I was just moving. I think I kicked a couple people in the head on accident. Apologies if I kicked you in the head. But I crowd surfed for the first time. It's something I will never do again, but it was an interesting experience, to say the least.
I've crowd surfed as well, so
Really?
I'm really proud of you for doing this. I did it at a Good Charlotte concert in like 2008, I think it was, 2009. It was great. It's like you
How
have
old
like
were you in 2008?
So I was probably 16, 17
Okay,
at
so
the
you
time.
were in high school.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
Yep. It's great because it's like you have like 20 hands on your body and you're just like moving across the sea of
Yeah,
people.
my butt
And
got touched quite a few times, which I don't know how I feel about that. But
I mean,
it's
you
okay.
just kind of go with it.
Yeah, I mean,
Like,
it's quick. It's quick and
yeah,
painless. It was fun.
It was just a quickie.
It's a good time.
But
Let that one breathe for a moment. Yeah, that's good. That's good, Hunter. Yeah, so that's what I learned on Saturday. Never going to do it again, though. All right, that does it for us today. We're back with you tomorrow. We'll talk a little bit more about college hoops tomorrow as NFL free agency continues as well. Packers looking good, though. I'm all in, baby. Brian Gutekunst is cooking. Josh Jacobs, upgrade at running back. Xavier McKinney, an upgrade at safety. You bring back some pieces. You are gearing up for a Super Bowl run. The general manager of the Green Bay Packers proving he is a very good general manager. Cooking in the first couple of days of free agency. We're back with you tomorrow. Big thanks to Hunter, as always, for running the show. I'm Alex Strouf. We'll talk to you tomorrow. This is Mr. Irrelevant. Peace.